Pokemon Sword and Shield is now 1 year old, and I think Crown Tundra was a really nice addition to it. There was a lot of stuff that was very hidden, and we had to figure it out for ourselves, which I thought was a great addition. Now, a lot of people who haven't bought this game and the DLC are going to be finished with it by now, maybe wrapping up some end game stuff and side quests and shiny hunting.